What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Rams Brothers. I'm your host, Dean, and I'm joined, as always, by my brother and the other great host of this show, Nick. And Nick, the Rams are 1-4, but you just turned 30. First off, happy birthday to you, good brother. And first and most importantly, how are you?
Thank you, Dean. I'm good. I feel weird being 30. I feel like the fans of this show are probably sick of hearing about my birthday. This might be the third episode in a row that we've talked about it. But today is my actual birthday, so thank you to everybody who has sent me birthday wishes online. It's very nice. That was the worst thing I could ask for my birthday was that Rams game. My fiance spent all his money to buy me a birthday ticket and get these like nice seats so we can go to the game, and I am sitting there so miserable watching them. It's hard for me to like find some takeaways from this game, but Dean compiled a good list of things to keep the positivity high.
I tried, and optimism is not really there when you're 1-4. But at the same time, at least you weren't sitting there in SoFi Stadium watching an Arizona Cardinals type game where they put up 41 points. The defense made it stop late. You had an opportunity to go win the game in the last drive of the game with Stafford and obviously over-targeting Colby Parkinson with like a minute and a half left. But, at the same time, it could have been worse. I'm hoping that your game day experience wasn't terrible. But I also wanted to hear about that because it seemed like there were a lot of Packers fans in the building.
I need to stop going to games with upper echelon franchises because it is so especially when you're like I'm dealing with the existential dread of turning 30 tomorrow, sitting there watching that game, coming down from a beer gut from the tailgate, and I have to listen to "Go Pack Go" chants, and whenever the Rams mess up or Stafford throws a pick or Kyron fumbles, the place erupts. And it's so I want to shout out every Rams fan that goes to these games. I can't even imagine what a 49ers game is like in division, how annoying that must be. But these Packers fans are oh God, it was just ridiculous. It was just everything about it. It's just it's so hard to go there in a transplant city and try to enjoy these games, these home games. And you're just out, it was probably 70-30, maybe 60-40. But yeah, it was a lot of green.
Well, you know what? You get outnumbered. And then the fans that are actually there need to understand that you're supposed to cheer when the team is on defense and make the opposing offense struggle and go on a silent count versus cheering your ass off when they're on offense and not enabling them to hear anything. So, there's some game day experience things that I feel like the Rams need to work on. And it all kind of is a microcosm of the season, right? Because they've been struggling on both sides of the ball. The fan base seems like they're a little bit wishy-washy in terms of the outlook of this team, whether they're going to tank, whether they're going to not, get rid of Stafford, get rid of McVay, which I think is all just total lunacy. But it's just kind of the way that this season has snowballed into this negative direction seems like it's the narrative of the season so far. And you compile it with opposing fans taking over the stadium, you don't really feel like you have a home field advantage ever. And this was their second home game of the season, and the first one being the 49ers game. So it makes things even more difficult.
Yeah, I don't think I really don't think it's lunacy to think about a future without Stafford. They signed him to a 1-year deal. And there is a possibility that that's what they thought they were going to get from him. That's what they got from him. Thank you for the Super Bowl. Go to Miami, go wherever you got to go, and good luck with your future. I think McVay, for people saying we need to move on from McVay, that to me is absolute lunacy. The guy is the best coach this organization has ever seen, and that it should never, ever be the fans asking him to be kicked out. I saw somebody say, I don't even think Jeff Fisher's teams ever went 1-4. Jeff Fisher's teams never went to 2 NFC championships. Yeah, get the hell out of here.
It is the Rams' worst start in a decade to start 1-4. But the only reason why I said it's lunacy to get rid of Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay is because Obviously, you mentioned Sean McVay is the best coach in the history of the organization. And Stafford is playing some really good football. I feel like people are just so damn critical of Matthew Stafford, but the context is where I think this stuff is really important. He was pressured on 18 of 45 dropbacks in this game. He was hit 10 times. He was sacked 3 times. And now he's dealing with a sore back because he's getting blasted while he's trying to go through his progressions and find receivers who can't separate whatsoever. And he's got to carry this offense that's down 2 leading target getters and 2 starting offensive linemen. He's been hit, Nick, 40 times this season. It's the 3rd most in the NFL. So he's getting all banged up. He's getting bruised. You see it every game where he's lying on his back and he's thinking to himself, what did I get myself into? Again, it feels like 2022 all over again. So, yeah, it's not lunacy to look beyond the future of Matthew Stafford because that's the reality of the situation, the reality of an aging quarterback. But beyond Sean McVay, is like, okay, he doesn't need to give away his play calling duties. He may be, a little bit headstrong when he's in the red zone. And I think that 2-point conversion call to Tutu Atwell was just asinine. But because you're so heavily reliant on receivers making blocks, and I think Jordan Whittington was responsible for like 3 players in open space to make sure that play executed properly. So like there's little tiny things, obviously. And he's got Mike LaFleur right by his side to kind of help him. But I think that's where everything kind of gets a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I feel like the team is with Stafford. You're going with the mentality that he has. The pick was really bad. The pick was bad. It was in double coverage. I mean, like from where I was on the field, I was like looking behind them on that play. At no point was he open. I mean, he's only. It really felt like he should have just gotten rid of the ball. But that's the kind of stuff with a quarterback like Stafford. He'll put you in positions where you can overcome that. And like get past that because he's like, that one's on me. I saw him. I thought I was good enough to make that throw. I didn't make it. Whatever. We'll rally back. That happens, and then the Kyron fumble right as the half
huge momentum shift.
Half starts. I looked at my fiance and I was like, I don't think we're going to be able to recover from this. The 3 plays later, the Packers score, and that was really the entire game right there. The team itself. Offense to defense with all the injuries, they're not good enough to overcome something like that. Like 2 turnovers is kind of the game. You're like on defense, you're kind of praying for the receivers to drop the ball as opposed to there being like a real stop. I mean, that pick 6 came out of really nowhere. That was more of a bonehead play on Jordan Love than it was an amazing play by the defense, to be honest with you. So it's hard right now because you don't like one bad thing goes your way after the Cardi missed extra point. Like 2 things can't happen. 2 good things can't happen in a row. And you're like, you're sitting there. You're like, that's going to bite us in the ass. And it did. It actually ended up biting us in the ass because then you don't have to go for 2.
Exactly.
And it's set up. So then a field goal ties the game. And it's just a whole different scenario where they're unfortunately right now. I don't think of them as a good team. I think that they could overcome this after the bye. Hopefully Cooper Kupp is good to come back that week. We'll be together when we watch that game, so we'll be even more hypercritical. But it's really difficult to see this team. To see this team going anywhere right now. I think they're better than 1-4 though. They should be better than 1-4.
Yeah, they are. And I think it was Quentin Lake who led with some optimism too, because he said, we'll be back and better after the bye. Thank you for all the support, Ramley. Because right after the bye, you got the Raiders, and then you got the Vikings, and then you got the Seahawks, another divisional game. So it's an opportunity to get back on track, although the Vikings game is going to be extremely difficult. But Mike McDonald, the Seattle Seahawks, he put up 38 points on them last year when he was the defensive coordinator of the Ravens. But yeah, 1-4, like the chances to make the playoffs go down. But you want to be playing some kind of competitive football in December and January, unless you're shooting for a top pick. And I just don't think it's the mentality of this organization to tank, to lose games, to move on from core pieces, because they've been trying to string everything together for the past 3-4 years coming out of the Super Bowl window, with guys like Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Donald, and a couple of their other major pieces, and even in free agency that they've tried to kind of hang their hats on. And now through the draft, they're trying to kind of rebuild it internally. So it makes things a little bit more difficult. But like I think the McVay criticism is a little bit crazy. Obviously, Chris Shula has been struggling a little bit, but they made a lot of adjustments defensively. And McVay, I feel like, is, never going to be on the hot seat unless he, maybe 5-10 years down the line, he continuously struggles and they just continue to put a bad product out on the field.
Maybe like 2 years down the line, if it continues like this and we start two more seasons in a row, 1-4, I think then
Sure.
the seat is at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit.
Makes total sense. But then, like, you got some good things happening too. Like, you got the emergence of Blake Corum, 5 yards per carry, 5 carries, 25 yards. Blake Corum looked like he was fast. He was shifty.
Yeah.
He's got an extra gear. I think the utilization of Kyren has been upwards of 85%, which feels almost completely unsustainable for the entire season. Kyren's been really good, though. He's incredible, right? Like, I think outside of the tackles, he was really good. 92 of his 102 rushing yards came after contact, which is the 8th most of any player in a game this season. And Corum, he's got that extra shift. He's got that extra wiggle. And I think his game is to kind of, you could wear down some of those interior players, some of those players inside the tackles that are going to try and stop the run consistently. And I think getting snaps over Ronnie Rivers is massive. And now you've got a two-headed tandem that is going to be potentially a problem in the red zone, but the red zone struggles continued. What's going on with Colby Parkinson is insane. The tight end targets, 13 targets, second most targets in the league from a tight end, which is the leading target getters in week 5 were Garrett Wilson, Darnell Mooney, Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, Drake London, and then Colby Parkinson. So 5 of the top 5 receivers in the NFL, and then Colby Parkinson. It speaks to their inability to be able to target players that are healthy at this point, right? Like you have a lack of receiver talent, and you have to be overly reliant on a player that you feel like you have some trust in, which Colby Parkinson has only been here for 5 games, and he's really just not that great of a player.
I also feel like what that tells you is these guys are not getting open. They're like, I need to dump the ball off. I need to get rid of this ball. Nobody's open downfield. They can't break away from their defenders. I just have to get rid of it and hopefully gain some yardage. And he's been there. He's been reliable, but that's not – it's really – right now it feels like the offense is the Kyren Williams show and Stafford like gasping for air, because that's really all we have. But I will piggyback on what you said from Corum. Everything that we saw from him I thought was great. I like the idea of him returning kicks now, just because it's like a little spark, even though it seems like every time he returned a punt, it was he ran right into the middle.
Yeah, I was going to say he wasn't following his lead blockers, which was strange because he does it so well when he gets handed the ball in the backfield.
I know. I mean, I think that is just such an emotional thing to have to do that. Like, that is so wild to be that guy that has to return that. There's just so many avenues for you. But from what we saw from him, like as a legitimate running back, I was very happy with that. I'm happy that they finally brought him in and didn't rely on Ronnie Rivers. It's like we have Blake Corum. Like let's see what we have with him.
You got a 3rd round pick in your back pocket. Like, let's utilize him in the red zone. And there was an opportunity for him to score, and then they tried Kyren out, and Kyren ended up capping it off. But going back to Parkinson for a second, like Tucker Kraft, Nick, was that Gronk? Was that Tony Gonzalez? Like, to watch that kind of player in comparison just reminds me that the Rams haven't had a dynamic tight end in the Sean McVay era. Yeah, they really haven't.
I can't name a dynamic Ram tight end in my lifetime.
What about Brandon Manamanauna? Remember him?
No, I don't. I mean, that maybe goes to show, my commitment to this team in the St. Louis era, but still.
No, they don't really have anybody noteworthy in terms of leading all-time tight ends. Tyler Higbee is the leading guy. Like, he's that player. Yeah,
Higbee on another team is not bringing like. I digress. I don't want to be negative on Higbee. I hope he comes back and he makes a huge impact on this team this year.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. They haven't even activated him from the PUP list. I don't even think they've gotten him practicing yet, which is strange because now we're in week 5 and you would start to become in the recovery window. But Davis Allen's probably the best pass catching tight end on the roster. And even with Tyler Higbee active, but he's had back spasms, he's had back issues, he's been hurt the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. So they're kind of starting to reintegrate him into the offense. I think he only had 2 targets, maybe 1 target in this game. So the tight end play is definitely a question mark. Jordan Whittington, you going back to the receivers, he's a stud. Like to be able to jump back into the Cooper Kupp role without Cooper Kupp on the field almost seamlessly. Like you might go 1 week without Puka or Kupp. Because Kupp, I think, they're being optimistic with a week 7 return, but I don't think that it's definitive by any means.
No, they're targeting week 6. They're targeting post-bye. Kupp may be able to come back.
Yeah, week 6 is the bye. Week 7 is the return from the bye. So they're trying to be, no, you're good. They're trying to be optimistic about week 7. And then Puka potentially would come back in week 8. But you might have 1 or 2 weeks where you could really kind of mix in a pretty decent effort in terms of personnel with receivers. But I feel like Tutu Atwell, kind of struggled a little bit yesterday. He's one that like he can obviously separate, but catching in traffic, I feel like is an obvious concern just because of his size. Demarcus Robinson, we talked about him aging in reverse in the offseason. It looks like he's just regular aging at this point.
I feel like every time the ball was going to him, there was like zero separation, and he was going to have to make like an incredible play on the ball, and he was just not equipped to do that. Yeah, but the Tutu aspect of it, there was one play where ball's like in his hands, and he just gets lit up over the center of the field, and the ball like flies out.
Yeah, some talented safety play by the Packers, but yeah, it's not something that you catch in traffic, really.
We have to get Whittington a touchdown. This kid is has been a stud, like you said. I've loving everything I'm seeing from him, and I think at some point they're going to get him like more active in the. Hopefully, it's like after.
It's a shame. It's a shame. Yeah, probably, but they play him in rotation to kind of slowly bring Cooper Kupp along, and I would love to see that because Whittington is fresh legs. But the way that he blocks. The way that he creates when the ball's in his hand, yards after the catch, the way that he really kind of understands the offense in his 5th game as a 6th-round pick, I feel like it's just really, really impressive. And then, Tyler Johnson's another one who can't separate whatsoever or create when the ball's in his hands outside of the one play against the Lions. So the receiving core, it all works together, right? The offensive line struggling, the pressures that they're allowing, Matthew Stafford struggling, the receivers struggling to separate. Like all that stuff works together. And then the blame, everybody wants to just point it on Stafford, which I feel like is irrational because you don't have a sound offense outside of Kyren Williams and Blake Corum at this point. And then defensively, I thought this was really interesting, right? Because Kobe Turner, I thought, played really well. And I'll get to him in a second. But the pressures just weren't there in this game. Like they really weren't generating pressure. There was the least amount of pressure that the Rams had generated in a game by far this season. Only 8 on 29 dropbacks. They generated just 1 pressure on 16 non-blitz dropbacks, which was the lowest pressure rate when not blitzing by any defense in any game this season. So the blitz rate actually increased with the secondary improving, though, which I thought was pretty fascinating. Like, okay, we got a better secondary. We got more stability. We can start to blitz a little bit. They sent Cam Curl on 4 blitzes, which was a really nice change of pace. But, versus Fisk, I thought Fisk and Verse both missed in crucial opportunities. And then even the Byron Young play, like the Byron Young play where you could sack Jordan Love in the end zone was like kind of a missed tackle at that point, although it led to the Jalen McCullough picks.
Right. But that's not, like wrap your guy up. You know what I mean? Like obviously we'll take the 6 points, but like not every quarterback is dumb enough in that it's not everyone's Will Levis and it's deciding to make that throw right there to extend a nothing play, and you get lucky and your guy's right there. I just want people. I was just going to say, I just want people to like look at the other side of it, right? Because you got Dak Prescott in prime time last night, who his leading receivers barking at him on the sidelines. Jordan Love's running around in the end zone like he's Dan Orlovsky, throwing pick sixes. Like that, that's the other side of the coin when you don't have a Matthew Stafford. When you go get a rookie, right? You go get a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders, and that player is nowhere near the talent that Matthew Stafford brings to the field. So like you're restarting all over again. And to point the blame at Matthew Stafford, I just feel like is totally insane. Although he struggled yesterday, but again, it all kind of pieces together. What were you going to say? I'm sorry. Just the first touchdown by the Packers. There's 3 Rams all
Oh, the
on
explosive.
one, yeah,
Yeah.
all on this one Packer. And credit where credit is due. Jordan Love throws a perfect ball that's like perfectly in the breadbasket, and we have a guy draped over him with a hand on him, which I'm shocked there wasn't a flag on there because he was clearly flying over top of him. Maybe if he doesn't make the catch, there's a flag. And then there's 2 other Rams like in front of him almost, and the guy comes away with the ball and the touchdown, and it was just like that. Sitting there was just a really difficult pill to swallow because that was the end zone that I was sitting behind. So it was just disgusting.
Yeah,
And
you had 3 guys there. You had Akello, you had Quentin Lake, and you had Christian Roseboom all right there ready to make a play. And Akello looked like he took a really weird route to get to the ball and was turned around in the wrong direction and couldn't track it. You got to have better body control than that. But again, second game he's played this season, his snap increase was heavy in this week from week over week. So difficult.
It is. And I was just giving McVay his flowers, though, but it's so frustrating. So frustrating when you get to the red zone for the first time, Packers up 7-0, and you have an opportunity to score a touchdown, and it's like 4th and 3, and you didn't get the touchdown. And you put the offense back on the field thinking like, all right, like,
yeah.
Huh?
And they ran the same play.
Yeah. And you're leaving points on the board. It's like, do you not trust Cardi from there? Is that what it is? Or like, do you just think that like this time it's going to work? It's just insanely frustrating.
Yeah. McVay has been gambling more frequently this season with less talent on the field, which I feel like he's just trying to compensate for. He's just like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's just like, I got players that I trust. Like, I think they should be able to execute, and it just isn't happening, which is, I think, a lot of where the frustration lies with this team. Because if they're better in the red zone and they're getting the quarterback on the ground more frequently, like we said in the last episode, they're going to be, at least 2-2, or at least 2-3, or at least 3-2.
You have to beat the Raiders. You have to. You cannot lose to the Raiders. I don't care where the game is. If you lose to the Raiders, I think it's absolutely valid to think about tanking and all of that because they look like one of the worst run organizations in the league right now.
Yeah, they do. That game it's at home. Yeah, you got two home games. Raiders.
Okay.
Yeah,
so that's nice. I mean, it's going to be filled with Raiders fans, so it might as well be an away game. And then Thursday night, after you win that, let's see. That's probably a loss. The Vikings look great. Their offense is really good. Our defense looks really bad. That's probably a loss. But then you play Seattle for the first time this season, who it looks really beatable. Looks like they have a really good offense, but their defense has huge holes, gigantic holes. So hopefully everybody's back by then, and it's at least a shootout. But if you lose 2 or 3 of those, your season's officially. Yeah, because we're on life support right now. But if you lose 2 out of the 3 of the next 3 games, it lights out.
Yeah, because if you win 2 of 3, then you're what? You're back to 3-6, like they were last year.
Yeah.
So I mean that's
we're
1-4, so they would be back to 3-5. So, I mean, that's better than what they were last year going into the bye after the Packers game. So, yeah, and then one other thing I wanted to call out, Kobe Turner, I thought was fantastic in this game. Highest graded player on the Rams yesterday. He was a 90.2. There's a good little snapshot of Kobe Turner. Looks like he's being triple teamed. Very reminiscent of Aaron Donald. Had 6 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, and 2 quarterback hits. So shout out Kobe. At least I think Kobe's a really solid player. At least he's playing well. Darius Williams. It's great to have him back. 2 targets, 1 reception allowed, 10 receiving yards allowed. And it was on that 3rd and 26 play where they gave Green Bay like a 10-yard cushion prior to them kicking a field goal. And Akello Witherspoon, the 3 targets and 3 receptions that he allowed, 65 of those yards were on the explosive play. So at least you got Akello back. Trey White benched. Coaching decision. I thought that was very interesting as well. Yeah, smart. But you saw guys like Jalen McCullough get snaps. You saw guys like Josh Wallace get snaps. So the secondary is changing. There are changes to come. And the Packers, they're explosive and then they're inconsistent. Like that's just kind of their personality at this point. So we got a couple of good questions. We got a mailbag, if you must.
Oh, let's see it.
Or if you will.
Mailbag is brought to you by Karma, the club from the Jersey Shore that they go to, where I got this shirt. No, I'm just kidding. It's brought to you by Autograph. Sign up for Autograph. Use our referral code RAMSBROS. It's this fantastic app where if you listen to podcasts from Rams creators or other sports that you love, you will get points that you can then bank those points up and spend them on tickets to the game, cool merchandise, a lot of really dope stuff. So check out Autograph, the app, download it, use our referral code RAMSBROS, and sign up and help us out as you do that.
Yeah, no fee tickets. I like that deal. We need Rams fans in the building to at least
hold on. Let me just say something just to prove how dumb I am, which just made the day worse yesterday before we do the mailbag. I bought tickets to the orange lot, and I started setting up for the tailgate, and the cops came up to me and were like, can't do that here. I was like, what do you mean? They're like, you can only tailgate in the pink lot. And I was like, what the fuck? So I had to buy another parking ticket, and they're each like $200. Oh. So it was just a really bad day to be a Rams fan who bought orange lot tickets.
Yikes. Well, hopefully the fans make us feel better with this mailbag, which I doubt. But we'll try. We'll see. Let's see. First one. No, that's Quentin Lake. First one. Dennis Dulé. Not Robert Goulet, but Dennis Dulé. Question. The Ernest Jones trade feels harder and harder to accept and understand. With the horrible performance from our linebackers, could Shula change his scheme up a bit? Maybe use Quentin Lake more in the box? I would say yes, right? Because Quentin Lake is a player that can play in the box. So is Kobe Durant. So is Cam Curl. Right? These are all guys that can be hybrid linebackers that could play in the box. They could change their scheme. They've been heavily reliant on cover three. But I think the shifts you saw this past week in the secondary, they're not afraid to bench a player like Trey White, who they paid $4.5 million to. So I would be optimistic that you're going to get changes in the secondary consistently, as well as changes at linebacker.
As for the Ernest Jones trade, I cannot speak on that because it's maddening the more that you think about it. It makes zero sense. I don't understand it. Maybe they saw the writing on the wall that they could be a really bad team. That is the only thing that makes sense to me. And that's pathetic if that's where they're coming from. I don't think that's where they're actually coming from. But
truthfully, I don't know this for 100% fact, but I think their team doctor did a really deep dive on his knee issue, and the Rams weren't comfortable giving him a new contract under the idea that his knee will eventually disintegrate.
Yeah, but
it won't be the same kind of player
give him a new contract.
Yeah, you just let him play the final year of his deal. Yeah, right. I get it.
If it was a contract year, then yeah, that explanation I understand.
And then McVay saying that we're a better team, right? We're still going to be a good team without him, and just all the conversation that went back and forth. I thought was where a lot of fans' frustration comes in. Next one we got from Junior at Junior ORDLN. Why do you think McVay has refused to rotate the linebackers in order to give players like Spates and Hummel a shot? And do you think they'll make any changes at linebacker after the bye? Nick, I don't know. You tell me. Troy Reeder and Christian Roseboom look shitty on TV. I can imagine they also look very shitty in person.
It looks like they run away from the guys sometimes. It legitimately looks like when you're watching little kids, maybe this was me when I was younger, run away from the play in person because I didn't want to tackle the guy with the ball. I was like, I don't want to play defense, so I want to be running back. Why am I out here? But it is really, really bad. Both of them, I don't know. I know that they're not going to listen to this, but I just got like a sense of like, oh wow, I'm like really just speaking bad on their names. But it's difficult to watch as a fan. I think Shula does need to make some decisions. I think they will. I would be shocked if they just let complacency just sit here because it has looked so bad on defense for so long.
Yeah, there's one thing to be able to play with the scheme, but there's another thing to be able to play with instincts. Like, if you know where you need to be on the field and it's not always where you need to be on the field, then you use your instincts, follow the ball, and try to make a play on the ball. And I don't think either of those guys have the capacity to be able to do that. They're just not instinctual football players, which scares the hell out of me because they're your two linebackers. And you really don't have anything else after that you've showed can play outside of Hummel and Spates in the preseason. But I do think they make a change 100%. The next one from M. Borden at M. Borden 13. Great friend of the pod. We absolutely love you, M. Borden. Make sure to keep commenting. Great during draft season. He's overseas. Yeah. We love you. McVay said post-match press conference, everything has to be questioned. Do you seriously believe that anything will change after the bye week? Or was that a typical McVay phrase as well as it starts with me, which he says a lot?
Can I field this one?
Sure.
I'm looking at teams under McVay. Things change all the time. They assess situations that they don't think are going to work, and they try to get in front of it early, and they change. I think the perfect example is Jared Goff. And maybe that was too early to give up on somebody, but they felt like that they needed to make a change, a huge, dramatic, drastic Hollywood exchange to win right now. And they did, and it worked. So I don't think like that to me was one of the most big balls moves that you have an organization do. And I think now other people are starting to see like, okay, that's what we have to do sometimes to win these championships is make like big blockbuster deals and like give up early on somebody if it means like cutting it loose now. Like the Browns need to take notice and do that with Deshaun Watson right now.
It'll be the biggest cap hit in the history of the NFL.
They gave him all that guaranteed money. It was the stupidest thing ever. I do think that there will be changes. Unless they want to tank, unless they think that is what's best for them, then there won't be changes. But I don't think right now with the 1-year deal with Stafford, especially if you are going to potentially move on from him, you might as well just let him go out there then and work his ass off.
You don't tank. You just don't tank in the NFL. Just isn't a thing. You try and go out. You try to win every game. Remember when the winless Jets beat the Rams in 2020? Even the 1-15 Rams from like 2009 were fighting to win games. And Steven Jackson's just trying to carry the entire offense on his back, just an effort to do something. Teams don't want to lose. Players don't want to lose. It's not the NBA. So
there's too many.
Not all money's guaranteed like it is in the NBA either. So
there's too much. There's too many people that go into an NFL process to tank.
Sure.
Everybody got the memo, but Troy Reader. Troy Reader's still going to be out there trying his hardest.
Buzz Lightyear's really working his ass off to try and make a tackle. Can't stand him. And then last one. Oh, did we already do juniors? Hold on.
Yeah.
We have one more in here?
I don't know.
Oh, I double uploaded Junior. So Junior, you got double love there. So that's all we got. Those are our 3 mailbag questions of the week. That's all we got for you.
So we'll probably take a break because there's no game.
Yeah, word on the street is that Jake is organizing a Rams roundtable that he invited us to be a part of. So if we want to be a part of that during the bye week, we definitely can. Otherwise, you and I will still be here, regularly scheduled programming. Maybe we'll talk to Jordan. We shall see.
Yeah, we'll bring somebody in. I was thinking of somebody that we could bring in, and my list is short. It's Taron Killam or our dad.
And Jim Everett's hanging out in the background.
And Everett.
If we want to ask him.
Well, that's our time. We're getting the red. We're getting the light getting flashed on us right now. We're having some technical difficulties like in Cat in the Hat. I appreciate you guys listening. Thank you so much for being a part of the Ramily and taking care and liking and subscribing. It means so much to Dean and I. And appreciate you guys. Go Rams.
Yeah, make sure you like and subscribe. Go Rams. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.